All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Kyla Elzinga. I'll help assist today's webinar. Welcome to this December edition of the Planned Special Events webinar series brought to you by the Federal Highway Administration and NOCO, the National Operations Center of Excellence. NOCO offers a variety of resources to support the transportation systems management and operations community. You can go to NOCO's website at transportationops.org to browse through links for TSMO resources and news. Previous webinar recordings and case studies can be accessed from the NOCO resources pages. So a few logistics for today's webinar before we get started. All attendees are muted, and we encourage you to stay engaged by using the chat box to identify your name, title, and the agency you represent. We will have a Q&A session at the end of presentations, so if you have any questions, we encourage you to enter them in the Q&A area as they come to mind at any time throughout today's webinar. And we are recording this webinar, and the recording will be available on NOCO's website within the next few days. So thank you again for attending today, and now I'll hand it off to today's host, Vishali Shah.
Thank you so much, Kyla. Good afternoon or good morning to a few, and thank you for taking part in the Federal Highway Administration's Planned Special Events Spotlight webinar series. This is, I believe, the fifth in the series. I am Vaishali Shah, Senior Director of Transportation Systems and support staff to the FHWA's Planned Special Events Program. So let's go ahead and do the quick disclaimer, Kyla. Next slide. The views expressed during this webinar are those of the presenters and not necessarily the U.S. government. The contents of the presentations are intended only to provide information. The U.S. government does not endorse products or manufacturers and trademarks or manufacturers' names. They're not intended to reflect a preference, approval, or endorsement of any product or entity. So with that, let's go ahead and move on. Today's webinar includes two incredible presenters and topics. The first being the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, and the second being the NASCAR Chicago Street Race. And then after the two presentations, we will do a Q&A, but we will start with a few small updates from the FHWA Planned Special Events Program. Next slide. So our two hosts for today are Kevin Valco and Chris Pettineo. Kevin serves as the Assistant Regional Traffic Engineer for the Rapid City region of South Dakota Department of Transportation. In this role, he is responsible for planning, implementing, and evaluating traffic engineering strategies that support some of the region's largest and most complex events. His responsibilities also include developing highway signing and pavement marking plans and preparing temporary traffic control strategies for roadway projects. Through his work, Kevin combines technical expertise, detailed planning, and interagency coordination to support safe travel and successful event operations across Western South Dakota. And following Kevin will be Chris Pettineo, who is the Deputy Director of Citywide Operations with the City of Chicago and their Office of Emergency Management and Communications. Chris brings to bear 22 years of progressive domestic and international leadership experience in profit, not-for-profit, and government institutions. Chris has led the procurement and management of grants, funds, and personnel with significant experience in managing multiple projects, departments, and budgets from program development to implementation. He specializes in emergency management and municipal operations, including the planning, coordination, and execution of large, high-profile special events. Chris is state certified in interoperable communications, emergency management, and emergency medical services. With that, I'd like to take a moment and invite all of our participants today to enter your name, your organization, and even if you prefer your title into the chat. I know some have already begun to do so, so that when we come to the end of the presentations for Q&A, you can potentially go off mute if it's more complex. And for questions, please do try to use the Q&A box at the bottom center of your screen. So with that, let's go to some FHWA updates. We wanted to share and spotlight a tool that is available on the Plan Special Events website. It is the PSE Capability Maturity Framework and Tool. There is a quick 1-minute assessment to understand where your organization is with regard to the many aspects of being ready to and effectively implement Plan Special Events, both from a planning, operations, and post-event perspective. And there is a full assessment that can take anywhere from 45 minutes to maybe even a half a day if conducted in concert with all of your stakeholders. It's a great way to identify what's working great and where we may have opportunities to improve the Plan Special Events mobility planning, working, like I said, again, with various stakeholders, whether they be law enforcement, local businesses, or otherwise. So if you're interested, here is the link to the tool, and we'll go ahead and put it in the chat momentarily. And the second thing we wanted to share was that during the last webinar, we introduced the PSE pilot course, and we had a great response in terms of interest in that course. That response came to fruition with a 5-part weekly course delivery that took place in the October-November timeframe. We had approximately 30 individuals participate, and those will receive NHI continuing education units. Participants and instructors provided really valuable inputs on the curriculum and its delivery. And based on this feedback, the FHWA Plan Special Events Program will make some minor adjustments to the course, and we expect it to come live on the NHI platform in early 2026, probably in the late February timeframe. So if your region is interested in scheduling a course, please feel free to reach out to the Federal Highway Administration's Plan Special Events Program, whether it be delivery in a virtual environment or perhaps even an in-person delivery over a half or a full day time frame. Next slide. And so one thing that we wanted to sort of highlight is another resource that is forthcoming called the Plan Special Events Checklist. The first 3 webinars in this Spotlight webinar series included presentations that shared special events planning activities through the lens of this PSE checklist, where our 6 core checklist elements. Natalie Betcher from North Central Texas Council of Governments discussed initial planning activities for their World Cup planning during the December 2024 webinar. And then Sal Cohen and Liz Falcon from New Jersey DOT discussed the steps within their feasibility checklist element for their World Cup planning. And in June, I believe it was Jason Sims that spotlighted components of their traffic management plan checklist elements. And in September, we went a little off script, but now we're coming back this month to the next component of the PSE checklist, which is implementation activities. That includes developing an implementation plan, conducting stakeholder simulation exercises, whether it be tabletop or in the field, establishing interagency communication service and compatibility, testing equipment and resources, and then recruiting and training volunteers. For smaller events, you may not need to do all of these things, such as recruiting and training volunteers, but for larger events, you may. So thus, to the extent relevant, our first presenter, Kevin Valco, will touch on the implementation activities towards the end of his presentation. So with that, I am very pleased to turn it over to Kevin to share their planning, conduct, and lessons from a really exciting event, the 2025 Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Vashali. Morning, everybody. Like it's been said, I'm Kevin Valco. I work with South Dakota Department of Transportation. And this morning, I'd like to talk to you all about our traffic control plan for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Next slide, please. The Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, not sure if many of you are familiar with it, is located in Sturgis, South Dakota, here off of I-90. Um, the population of Sturgis is typically around 7,000 as of our census in 2020. So it's a very small town in our terms. The largest town closest to it is Rapid City, 23 miles on I-90. And when the motorcycle rally comes to town, we see over 400,000 visits to Sturgis over a 10-day period. Next slide, please. But Sturgis isn't the only attraction that brings people to Western South Dakota. Historic downtown Deadwood is another one, along with Custer State Park, Mount Rushmore, Devil's Tower in Wyoming, and Crazy Horse. Also see lots of tourist activity every year and are huge attractions during the motorcycle rally as well. Next slide, please. While visitors come to the rally, there is a lot of shopping in downtown Sturgis for the rally. We have campgrounds and concert venues that are full every night of concerts, with multiple campgrounds hosting. The large Harley-Davidson dealerships in Rapid City and Sturgis see lots of traffic coming through as well. These are all places that people come, stay, visit during the motorcycle rally. Next slide, please. The South Dakota mission for our rally traffic control is to effectively provide a safe traveling experience for all travelers in and around the Black Hills through the duration of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. With that in mind, we do everything we can to make it a safe and fun trip for all that have come to visit Western South Dakota. Next slide, please. The elements of our traffic control plan to help achieve the mission that was stated: we changed speed limits in certain areas, we set up temporary signals, we use portable message boards, portable speed trailers, we supply incident support, and all of this is run through our Traffic Operations Center. Next slide, please. For our speed limit changes, generally I-90 between Rapid City and Sturgis runs at 75 miles per hour. During the rally, because of the increased traffic, we reduced that to 65. There's also a stretch on Highway 34 just east of Sturgis between one of the major campgrounds that gets reduced from 45 and 65 miles an hour down to 35, and also a stretch in front of another major campground on Highway 79 about 4 miles north of Sturgis that gets reduced to 45 miles an hour from 65. Next slide, please. Our temporary traffic signals that we use are trailers that we rent, or they're permanent signals that are only used seasonally. This is showing the temporary signals that we have in place in the Sturgis area. As you can see, we have 4 different setups for signal trailers and 5 different seasonal signals that only operate during the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Next slide, please. Moving outside of the Sturgis area and moving into a more regional area, we have 2 other portable signals that get set up at major highway intersections that see a lot of traffic, and also one at an interstate off-ramp in Rapid City that is the major exit to the Harley-Davidson dealership. Next slide, please. Looking here, this is showing some of our temporary traffic signal setups that we have. Just your typical signal trailers that you rent. They're all run on battery and solar power. You have the one span wire system in the middle that gets put up as a seasonal signal only for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Next slide, please. We have permanent message boards that we use year-round for incident support, that we use for messages to traveling public during harsh weather events, high wind warnings, and they are also highly utilized during the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally for safety messages and also for warning of delays on the interstate or to expect crashes if one has happened up ahead. Next slide, please. We also use portable message boards that we place in more remote areas. The idea behind using these portable boards is that we can kind of corral two different directions of highways so that if a crash happens or some sort of event happens between the message boards, we can warn the travelers heading that direction that, hey, be advised that there's slow traffic ahead, consider an alternate route, just trying to provide road users as much information as early as possible. Next slide, please. And our portable message boards especially get spread out when you start looking down into our state park and the Mount Rushmore area, where there is a lot of very scenic bike routes that people like to travel. They're also very curvy, very hilly, higher chances for accidents to happen. These are routes that we have designated as priority routes to make sure that we have message board locations that we can use for getting messages out to the traveling public. Next slide, please. As you can see from these pictures, there's nothing special with our message board setup. They're generally just off to the side of the road, use some cones to delineate them. But the big key is just having them there where people can see them on a straight stretch of road if possible, or at least making them as visible as possible. Next slide, please. Our speed trailers are mostly used just for reminders, especially in the area north of Sturgis, where we have reduced the speed limit to 45 miles an hour. It gives the drivers a visual feedback that, hey, we have a reduced speed limit in this area. Please slow down, be conscious of your speed through this area. The other one is on Highway 87 near Mount Coolidge. This is a very curvy, hilly area with tight switchbacks, and we advise speeds of 25 miles an hour in this area. And the reason for the speed trailer is just to, again, get back the feedback to the drivers to make sure that they're driving a safe speed. Next slide, please. With incident support, all of this is manned through our traffic operations center, and we have highway maintenance crews available to help with any incident support that's needed. We have call-out vehicles equipped with cones, signs, stop slow paddles, and they're stationed in Rapid City, Sturgis, Deadwood, Custer, and Belfouche. They're there to support law enforcement with crashes or other incidents that may arise. We also have a front end loader that we stage at I-90 exit 34. That's about 2 miles east of Sturgis, just for the fact if there is a major pileup or a major incident on I-90, we can use that to move debris off of the roadway and get it opened as quick as possible, as this area of I-90 really has no alternatives for getting people around or getting people detoured around that area. And we also have a full list of all other equipment that we have available to us in our traffic control plan. Next slide, please. So just some incidents that we could be called out for. Bunch of buffalo across the road in Custer State Park. That's a very common thing to have buffalo crossing. Heavy congested traffic on Interstate 90 near Sturgis. And like was mentioned earlier, crashes. If it's severe enough that Highway Patrol themselves can't handle it, we can be called out to set up traffic control to close down a lane if it was on an interstate or multi-lane highway, and do any flagging operations that would be needed until Highway Patrol would release that scene. Next slide, please. So our Traffic Operations Center, we do stage ourselves up in Sturgis so that we are in the center of all of the action. We have personnel in the Operations Center from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. all 10 days of the rally. We monitor cameras for incidents in the major Sturgis area. We also have the ability to monitor highway patrol calls to assist with accidents, to assist with getting message boards out, or not message boards out, but getting messages on the message boards, preempting traffic signals to make sure that traffic is not backing up onto the interstate. As was mentioned, in monitoring for crashes and being able to deploy or call out vehicles if necessary. And then we also manage the volume counting operations. Next slide, please. So these two pictures just show our setup. This is just a maintenance shop that we take over for the week. We have a couple TVs to monitor the cameras, to monitor the highway patrol crashes, monitor our signals. We do have a master signal controller in there as well that gives us remote access to exit 30 and exit 32 for preempting those signals. Next slide, please. With the times that have come, we have also started to implement more technology into our operations center. And instead of having hardwire master controllers, we've started looking at cabinet monitoring and remote capabilities. And that has been a huge change that we made just this past year. And it was very helpful to give us connectivity to 7 different signals across the Sturgis area instead of just 4 that we had previously. Next slide, please. Other items that occurred during the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally are highway patrol escorted tours. These are limited to 50 to 200 motorcycles at most. They are escorted by highway patrol from start to finish of the route. And the DOT helps to control the signals along their route to make traffic, to keep the ride together and keep them moving smooth and freely. Next slide, please. So going into our implementation, looking at developing an implementation plan, the way that we go about this is every January, we review our traffic control plan that we have. The nice thing about the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally is that our traffic control plan really doesn't change year to year. There may be some minor tweaks or some upgrades in technology that we're able to use, but it's more just a review of it. Yep, everything looks good. We made sure that we've got the dates correct for this year's rally. And we also start getting our rally tour requests in at this time as well. By the time May runs around, we're having a meeting with Highway Patrol as far as our guided tours. With that, we only allow 2 motorcycle tours per day, and none of those tours can enter the Sturgis area after 2 p.m. Looking as we move into June, we run a tabletop exercise with the DOT, Highway Patrol, Department of Health and Safety, Fire, National Weather Service, basically everybody that's involved in the rally at some point. And usually we go over a major scenario happening at a location either in Sturgis or around Sturgis, just to make sure that everybody is on the same page as far as how we're going to handle it, how we're going to communicate with each other, and what forms of communication we're going to use. Once we start getting into July, now we're going to get our portable message boards out. We're going to start setting up our seasonal signals, making sure that they're operational. Our temporary trailer signals that we run, we do not deploy those until 2 weeks before the rally starts, and they become in operation 1 week before the rally is going. Then we have the rally moving into August. The rally runs the first full week of August. And as soon as the rally is over, we are removing temporary traffic signals the following Monday after the rally is done. And then by the time we hit September, we are doing an after action review of everything that happened this year and making notes of any changes or things that we'd like to see different for the next year's rally. Next slide, please. So with that, quick rundown of everything that happens at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Even though it seems quick and easy going through it this way, it is a very long and hard effort that we all put in. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate being able here to talk to you about the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
Thank you so much, Kevin. A lot of great information. We're going to save questions till the end, but please do add your questions for Kevin or aspects of the rally in the Q&A button below. And with that, let me hand it over to our next presenter, Chris Pettineo. Next slide.
All righty. Good
Over to
afternoon.
you, Chris.
Thank you, everyone. Chris Pettineo, City of Chicago, Office of Emergency Management and Communications. I'm here today to talk to you about our NASCAR street race experience and how we coordinated planning for that across all city departments. Next slide, please. A little bit of background. Chicago's Central Business District is actually defined by our municipal code, outlined there in red. Some quick geography facts. We have 26 movable bridges. We have elevated and subway trains. We have a subterranean pedway that walks under essentially the downtown area just south of the main branch of the river. We also have extensive garages, our metro busway, and many, many multi-level streets all in this footprint here. Next slide, please. The details. So when we were first encountered with this experience, we had to come up with all of the details. Essentially, this was a new race for NASCAR and a new race for the city of Chicago. There were a lot of assumptions and considerations, but we essentially had to take the concept of this race and make it a reality. There were some impacts there, relationships, trust, honestly, language. We didn't speak the language of NASCAR, and they didn't necessarily speak the language of city operations because this was a first ever street race for them. Next slide, please. Not all roads are created equal. In the footprint itself, just for the track, if you look at DuSable Lakeshore Drive, which is essentially our municipal highway, 4 lanes in each direction, 129,000 cars had to be rerouted daily. Then when you take into account the other street closures, just for the immediate footprint of the event, we're looking at over 217,000 cars that had to be rerouted off that immediate footprint daily. And the photo there on the top right is the track wall installation and our traffic control aids that belong to OEMC. They're installing the track wall there on DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Next slide, please. So the track itself, highlighted there in red, 2.2-mile street course using the following roads that are listed there. But when you take into account the traffic reroutes, the event itself, one-way streets that may be dead-ending into the track, highlighted in green is the actual expanded footprint of the event. So while the track is pretty small, 2.2 miles, essentially there's about 5 to 6 miles of impacts. Next slide, please. The direct impact area that I just alluded to is much more complex than all the green space you see there. Essentially, 380 businesses were going to be directly impacted. That's not even taking into account the visitors and the residents that live in that immediate area. Next slide, please. Of course, that wasn't the only game in town. Concurrent special events that were proximate to the NASCAR footprint are listed there. Volleyball, 40,000 people. Cubs game, 40,000 people. Navy Pier fireworks, 40,000 people. Erykah Badu concert, 20,000 people. International Festival of Life, another 15,000 people. And then also we had a couple weddings nearby on the museum campus that immediately abut the NASCAR footprint. So not only the event itself we had to contend with, but essentially business as usual in the city. Next slide, please. So we have all the details. We had to give it structure. We needed buy-in from all levels of government, city, county, state, federal, including our public-private partnerships. We saw all of the businesses that are going to be impacted, tourism, and also the residents and just daily commuters. We had to develop a citywide cadence of meetings, and you can see that we started our first one 129 days out. Again, this was a first ever event. We needed to create a structure for all of these details. We created committees and subcommittees, and instead of asking for buy-in, we just assigned departments and individuals to be chairs and co-chairs. We gave them a structured reporting mechanism, and all of that would be shared during these meetings and then kept for historical use later. Next slide, please. There's a picture of our citywide overview meeting. That is our conference room or auditorium at OEMC, able to fit about 150 people. And you can see the main public safety partners there up front: police, OEMC, and fire. Next slide, please. We had to come up with a citywide meeting calendar. You can see the level of detail there on the left. So it starts with our kickoff meeting, and we set the cadence. So we're a little bit out. We're going to meet every 3 weeks. As we get closer, we're going to shrink that down. We're going to start to meet every 2 weeks. You can see we sprinkled in a couple of tabletop exercises there. And then as we're coming up to the event, we are meeting every single week, not only as committees, but as the group as a whole. We rounded it all out with a citywide workshop that included all partners and stakeholders just ahead of the event on July 1st and 2nd, 2023. Next slide, please. So it's a lot to digest, all of the details, all of the structure. We had to break it down into phases. So we had pre-race, that's essentially the site build and the track build. We had the 2 race days, only 2 race days. So you can see the amount of prep that went into just those 2 race days. It's basically a 28-day build. And then post-race, the event is done, but the impacts still remain. So about another 2 weeks of impacts post-race. So each and every committee, and we'll go through that in 1 second, had to address their different topics for each one of those phases. Next slide, please. These are the committees. We can go through these pretty fast. Concurrent NASCAR sponsored events. Next. Community engagement, messaging, and media. We wanted to make sure everybody knew about this. Infrastructure. That's the actual track itself. Public safety, which we saw, which takes the bulk of the planning. Next. And near and dear to my heart, public transportation, traffic, street closures, and openings, which had the bulk of the work. Next, please. So the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee, the big details were, this has never been done, not by NASCAR and not by the city of Chicago. In the past, we have never shut down Lakeshore Drive for any significant amount of time. You saw that's almost 129,000 cars daily. So the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee took all of those 3 different phases and in painful detail went through the impact areas. We needed to know pedestrian impacts, vehicular impacts, employees, residents, patrons, the park space, sidewalk roads, and all of these other events. How is everything going to keep moving? Next slide, please. So when it comes just to street closures and openings, we had to look at street repairs and impacts, the event load-in, site builds and impacts, and even the track barrier installation. That's actually the physical track, the small area, 2.2 miles, where the cars are actually going to be racing. We also broke down in the immediate versus expanded footprint, which we saw on one of those first slides. Where are we going to do these cutoffs? How are we going to reroute not just vehicular traffic, but pedestrian traffic? What is the signage plan going to look like? And the photo we're looking at right there is actually looking at Michigan Avenue, which again, in certain areas, 3 lanes in each direction. And the bulk of those 380 different kinds of impacts, be it residents, pharmacies, senior living facilities, are mainly on that stretch there. Next slide, please. Traffic itself, pre-event, event days, and post-event. Focusing specifically on traffic, just the sheer volume we were faced at having to reroute took on essentially a planning phase of its own, not just during racing times or the two event days, but when we looked at the entirety of it, pre-event, event, and post-event, there were traffic and street impacts for this event. Next slide, please. And then we had to take into account our public transportation partners. In the background slide, you saw that we have not only Metra, so that's essentially Federal Railroad. We have our Chicago Transit Authority, which has rail and bus. And then we also have PACE for paratransit. Taking into account all of those different public transportation providers, we needed to ensure that our public transportation system remained a viable option, not only for business as usual, but again, to bring people to and from the event in hopes we'd be able to cut down on a little bit of that personal vehicular travel and parking. Next slide, please. Now we got into the deliverables. So we took all of the details, we gave it structure, and we came up with a 90-page traffic management plan. And we looked at not only of the event, but outside of the event. So when it came down to developing the plans, the public safety plans for the actual event and the pre and post-event phases, we decided there had to be a separate plan and manpower for the event versus our traffic incident action plan, which you see there on the top right. We took the plan in its most final draft phase and we workshopped it. We tested it in front of all city departments. And in that meeting, we walked through 4 different traffic-based scenarios in which we were able to take that feedback, test the plan, or make changes so that it was finalized in the days leading up to the event. Next slide, please. Now the execution. So we took all the details, we gave it structure, and here we are, race days. Next slide, please. We had to operationalize everything we had been planning for. There were some hurdles. Some of our message boards were hacked, and we had an extensive number going out many, many miles from the footprint. You can imagine trying to reroute Lakeshore Drive. We started at the beginning and the end with messaging, and essentially where the event is almost in the middle of Lakeshore Drive. So miles and miles of message boards. Some were hacked. We were able to fix that in real time with the company. There were some fencing snafus, I'd call them, a scrim on the outside of the fencing that people just cut through, leading to crowds there, unpaid patrons who were gathering on the public way to watch the race for free. A lot of rogue parking. You can imagine the amount of parking we had to strip just for the street closures in the extended perimeter itself. Unfortunately, there was a fatal crash on the morning of race day on I-290. So that essentially shut down the 5-lane in each direction highway that comes right into the downtown area. And then we'll touch on a little bit of weather, which you can never predict and is honestly the biggest impact to outdoor events and the evacuation that led to that. Next slide, please. Unified command. So similar to Kevin, for these large-scale special events, all of the partner agencies set up near the event in a secure location. So that event is essentially run from the ground there. Any incidents or emergencies or changes that need to happen come from this collective unified command post where all agencies are able to voice their opinion and we come up with a unified front for how we are going to deal with whatever emergency or incident is in front of us. That way we are all on the same page, we are speaking with the same voice, and we are handling it collectively, in addition to the event personnel. Next slide, please. There is the historic 100-year rain that we got. If you look at the picture on the left, yes, those are essentially waves on Michigan Avenue. It rained that much. It actually was a federal disaster declaration. Next slide, please. And there is our command post location. The historic rain, while we were able to persevere in that location, we did end up changing locations um, in the next years after that inaugural Chicago Historic Street Race. Next slide, please. After all of our events, especially the high-profile ones, we conduct an after-action report. So we all sit down, we review, again in the same structure, pre-event, event days, and post-event. How well did everything go? From that feedback, going into 2024, we were able to reduce the overall build time of the event by 6 days. We came up with a separate weather plan and protocol for events like this. We clearly defined roles for race control and command posts. That goes back to the language barrier. This is a televised sporting event in a festival setting. The sporting event itself is run differently than the festival setting. They have different rules that they have to abide by for the sports commission. We ended up scrimming all exterior fence on the inside, so we did not have crowds like that in years going forward. Thankfully, only minor changes were needed to the traffic plan. Those 90 pages, the first year, we put in the time, we put in the effort, we made sure it was an ironclad plan. Only minor changes were needed for subsequent years. And then with the event, working with the event hand in hand, they were able to make some improvements also, a wayfinding app, and enhanced mapping, not only for event patrons, but for those 380 businesses we talked about, residents and visitors who maybe just wanted to know how to get around this footprint and how to navigate these street closures. Next slide, please. Thank you all for the opportunity to discuss the NASCAR street race in Chicago experience and our planning process. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Chris. This kind of different from Kevin, but an incredible undertaking. The Sturgis Motorcycle Rally in a very remote place. Kevin, what was it? 300,000, 30,000? I've lost my number of
Over
people coming.
400,000 visitors to Sturgis.
400,000 visitors in a town that has a few thousand versus hundreds of businesses in a highly dense network where you're closing down and moving over 120,000 vehicles a day because of the streetcar race. And then on top of that, the 100-year flood. Very, very different, but really interesting events. Please go ahead and share your screens, and your video and your audio, Kevin and Chris. We're going to start with some Q&A. The first one was put in by Kristen Hahn, who, for you, Kevin, noted it looks like you needed more equipment. And I'm going to translate that to what additional equipment might be better to meet the mobility needs for the rally? And is the DOT in a position to fund this need, or might resources be borrowed from others in the area?
Yeah, equipment is always a big thing and never can have enough of it. Probably the biggest needs that I see that would help us the most is more remote cameras, more ability to live stream video in some of these more rural locations. We do have 4 portable message boards that have live stream cameras on them. So that's been very helpful for us to see areas that are very hard to travel to. As far as borrowing equipment from other regions, we can borrow message boards and we do that, but the video is not something that we can borrow. As far as signal trailers, we've gone to the idea of renting those out because we just don't have the manpower or the time to actually set those up ourselves.
Makes sense. And I do invite folks, if you have specific questions for Kevin or Chris, please put them in the Q&A chat. I have sort of a follow-up question for you as well, Kevin. So what collaboration efforts stood out as helpful during the rally? You went into great detail about the transportation mobility plan, but that plan, requires a lot of stakeholders to come in. Who or what roles were critical, and where might you expand your network for collaboration?
Probably the biggest agency that we collaborated with the most would be Highway Patrol. Because they're the ones that are actually out there on the ground. They're the ones that are trying to get around the most. So we do a lot with them, and we're in contact with them daily. I guess the other piece of this, maybe I probably should have mentioned during the presentation, but during the actual rally itself, we do have a ground zero meeting every day where Highway Patrol comes in, DOT comes in, Department of Criminal Investigations in, Wildland Fire's there, Red Cross is there, Health and Human Services are there. We're just giving a quick update on what is the status of every agency. So we do have communication daily as well.
I think that's critical. That's
Absolutely it is,
critical to,
yes.
yeah, making sure things run smoothly. Chris, I think it was incredible to see the improvements. You had that slide with 2024 improvements, with the build time being shortened by 6 days, only minor changes being needed to the traffic management plan, as well as the incident plan. What, if any improvements do you see moving forward, if as this becomes an annual event?
And absolutely. So looking at when you look at the event, you look at the overall build time. That is for everything from start to finish. Within that, there are the actual traffic and street impacts. So for the Chicago Street Race in 2025, we only had 18 days of traffic and street impacts, whereas in 2023, we had 25 days of traffic and street impacts. And when you break that down, 2025, the entire build date, 25 days, whereas in 2023, it was 43 days. So continuing the work, we were able to hone that down, and that's different staging areas, working at different times, maybe closing some streets earlier than we did previously, all to facilitate that quicker build time, which goes a long, long way with the residents, visitors, businesses, just getting better every year and not thinking any year is good enough.
That's incredible. Coming back to the plan, are there other documentation efforts so that you have continuity if a person changes roles or otherwise, that you can maintain this level of positive improvements in efficiency year to year?
Oh, absolutely. So when we look at it, even our committee presentations, all of that is captured historically. So we have each and every single meeting note and document that was all packaged up. So for anyone to look at and for us to reference in years past, how did we do it in 2023? Did that work? Didn't it? What are we going to do in subsequent years? That is all there for historical reference.
I'm guessing you have a contact list that you update, in advance each year as well, so that, if there's somebody new, then to sort of give that additional background information for the new position, person, role.
Absolutely.
Very cool. What advice would either of you offer to regions considering significant street closures, that was required for the streetcar race, or, when you're having the motorcycle rally?
Plan, plan, plan. Get ahead of it early.
Yeah, that's you saw how early we started. As soon as we heard that we were getting the event, we started planning. It was just so new and the impacts were so vast that we needed every single hour of every day leading up to the event to make sure that we got it right. Otherwise, we're doing a disservice to the residents and visitors of Chicago.
Um, I'm curious, this is something that's come up in past webinars, that it takes a lot of resources, as both of you have shared. Do you actually have like special charge codes or other things so that you can sort of approximate the man hours required to put these events, traffic management, both from the planning, the execution, and the post analysis? Either of you,
Yeah.
question for either.
Yes, we do. In particular, they're called reason and labor tracking codes. So we are able to project what is needed. For instance, we use salt trucks with plows to block a lot of these streets. You think about 4-lane highway in each direction to make sure that it is actually secure. We have to use resources we have readily available. So leading up to the event, we create what are called citywide reason and labor tracking codes. And with that, that tracks the manpower hours versus the equipment usage hours. And then that goes to our Department of Finance for cost recovery efforts.
Very, very good. I think that's what some of the states are working towards as well when we were doing the past webinars. Kevin, from your side?
Yes, we do. We have our own. Basically, we created a special function for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, and any equipment or man hours that is being used during that time, whether it be planning, preparation during the rally or afterwards, it all gets charged to that code. And same way, we're able to track that and have reports run on it for financial and man hour time usage.
I'm going to guess the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you guys ever have like the city office, or has the state done like a benefit cost analysis that says, this was the economic um, benefit from hosting the event, and these are the, resource costs associated with it, just to demonstrate the value of not just the mobility planning, but all of the investment that goes into hosting events.
As far
My
as
guess is no, but
the state of South Dakota, no, has not done anything like this. I know the city of Sturgis did do some sort of analysis on financial revenue that they brought in a few years ago. I don't remember the results of it, but basically, the rally is the only reason Sturgis exists at this point.
wow.
And yes, for Chicago, yes, we do. There's actually it's not a city department, it's a sister agency, if you will, called Choose Chicago, and there are tourism branch, we'll call it. So they run those reports privately, and that accounts for visitors to the event. It could be hotel rooms booked. They have a whole matrix of cost benefit analysis for any kind of event that we do.
That's amazing. Very good. Another question for you, Kevin. You support the Rapid City region traffic engineering and efforts. Do you interact with counterparts in other regions? Is there any event, maybe not of the same scale, but similar, where the Rapid City region does it one way, but other regions, in South Dakota may be doing it differently. Do you guys have any collaboration or sharing of good practices or resources?
We have not done any sharing or had any sit downs as far as being able to share cross information. I know there are other regions. They do have a lot smaller events that they're dealing with. We share equipment back and forth. That's really kind of about the extent of it.
And same question to you, Chris. There are many other major cities outside of Chicago and other events. Are there any sort of efforts to collaborate with other cities or within the different districts outside of Chicago?
Absolutely. But in this particular case, I really have to thank NASCAR because it was so foreign to us that part of the planning process, we actually went out as a group, as one of these planning groups, and actually witnessed how they do it on one of their own tracks. We got to talk to the municipality, we got to talk to the county and see how they do it because they do it day in and day out. Granted, it is on a fixed track that NASCAR owns, but just to see how the extended perimeter comes together because it is the municipalities or the counties that have to deal with that expanded perimeter. And it was just so foreign to me in particular as to how it all worked. That was invaluable in the planning and just being able to sit with their transportation department, with their police, with their fire, with their emergency management, and see how they approach those races because they have so much more experience. And that was invaluable to meet with NASCAR and meet with the stakeholders in some of these other areas where they have tracks and really learn, again, break down those language barriers as to, how they operate, the lingo they use versus how we operate and the lingo we use.
Do you have a funny example of that lingo dissonance?
For me, the I'm very familiar with fencing. I had no clue about NASCAR fencing. So when you look at the fence on top of that track wall, how robust it is, how scientifically precise it is unlike anything we'd ever seen. It's not a regular fencing you would use for an event to keep people in an area or to keep people out. It is specifically designed to stop race car debris. And that in the early planning process, that was a big, big concern. You see clips on TV, you see a wheel can pop off, and if that happens and there's a crowd there and now it's downtown, it's going to be an issue,
Yes.
but little nuances like that really help the planning move forward so that you can just break down the misconceptions.
Interesting. Very interesting. Um, so I'm going to pause for a second. We haven't heard as many questions from participants. I'm going to give you guys a minute if you wanted to ask a question. If not, I will, let me pause for one moment, see if there's any more questions that come in. And not having seen any, I'm going to first of all say a huge thank you both to Chris and Kevin. These were very exciting and incredible events, and to see, how the cooks in the kitchen operate, I think is incredibly valuable for our audience at large. And uh, if you have questions afterward, feel free to reach out to the FHWA's Planned Special Events Program. And we will connect you with Chris and Kevin. So big thanks on behalf of David Johnson, who runs the FHWA's Planned Special Events Program. And thanks to our wonderful host from NOCO as well, Kyla. And we have a couple of slides to close off this webinar. Just to let you know that this webinar and its recording will be available on the NOCO site. If you would like a copy of the presentation, please reach out to us and we'll get you a PDF. There is a PSE website, which is listed here, and that has that PSE capability maturity tool. And we will be hopefully beginning the PSE newsletter from the Federal Highway Administration in 2026. So if you'd like to pre-subscribe, please do so here. With that, I want to say thank you, everyone, for spending an hour of your day to learn, and reach out to David or Sharon if you have any questions or if you need any support regarding planned special events. And finally, a thanks again for Chris and Kevin. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.